set of people and voices who will hear. Let me hear from Mr. Dilip Chenoy, the Secretary General of FICCI. So tell us, what do you have to say about the topic that we have, India's Podium Dream, the Odisha story?
Thank you, Risha. I hope you can hear me well. Okay. So, Shri Tushar Kanti Behera, Honorable Minister for Sports and Youth Services, Government of Odisha, Shri Vishal Dev, IAS Commissioner, come Secretary, Department of Sports and Youth Services, Odisha, Mr. Pulela Gopi Chand, Mr. Dilip Tirki, Mr. Abhinav Bindra, Sanjog Gupta, and of course, Richa, Sports Editor at NDTV. I think the National Sports Day is celebrated to honor the legendary hockey player Major Dhyan Chand. And Odisha has always maintained dominance in hockey. And I just want to share from you that I'm actually joining this from home, which is a few minutes walk away from the Dhyan Chand Hockey Stadium, the National Stadium in Delhi, where I had spent considerable time playing when I was much, much younger. And given that the focus is on Odisha and we are celebrating the birthday of Major Dhyan Chand, therefore, we have to link Odisha and hockey. We could not have a better team that we have at the helm of affairs at Odisha at this point of time. Visionary CM at the top with a dream to make Odisha the #1 sports promoting state of India. A result-oriented minister, a dynamic secretary. We have rightly the stage which is most progressive when it comes to having evolved a sporting ecosystem. In fact, it was very, very clearly demonstrated when at the beginning of the pandemic, when a tournament had to be held, it actually got held in Odisha, despite all the challenges there. Odisha is on the path of empowering a youth with skills and also emphasizing the sporting ethos. And if we do that, we believe that the youth can become creative and entrepreneurial professionals for the future. For any sport or any type of activity, you need icons. And we have very, very good and very valued icons who are the panelists of this session. Mr. Gopi Chand, who's an icon in badminton. Mr. Dilip, he played hockey. I watched him play many times, although he was type of born when I finished my, not really, I still had a few years of my active career, but I watched him play. Of course, he's a triple Olympian. Mr. Abhinav Bindra, he himself is an icon. He's also supporting the sport. And of course, we have Sanjog Gupta, the chair of the FICCI Sports Committee. Last year, we actually had sports awards. And it is my real privilege to share with you and everyone listening in that for its unparalleled multiple achievements of the state, FICCI had awarded Odisha the best state promoting sports in the country last December. I think the focus of Odisha on creating new infrastructure for various athletic events, complemented by its effort to support and help and enable sports people there to progress and to excel, and the whole type of infrastructure they're creating for not only people who play, but people who come and watch, and also their focus on becoming a major international hub. I am sure that during the discussions, new opportunities to partner with the state would be found for corporates, for centers of excellence, for individuals. I mean, the academy in Hyderabad is legendary. The range in Punjab is legendary. We can also have many, many such centers in Odisha. We hope that the state would consider a policy which would attract sports goods manufacturers to invest in the state and make good availability and easy and affordable sports equipment going forward. We look forward to closely working and supporting the state in their journey, and we are delighted that the top leadership of the state has joined us this afternoon on this very important day when we actually celebrate India's podium dream, the Odisha story. Thank you, Richa, and over back to you. I think you're on mute.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chenoy, for that address. when we talk about Odisha's story, we will have to talk about their maverick sports secretary, Mr. Vishal Kumar Dev, who is credited with the turnaround of Odisha's sporting infrastructure and how he's been promoting sports, Odisha as a sports destination, and perhaps the state of Victoria, like the state of Victoria in Australia, Odisha is on its way to become the sporting destination in India. Mr. Dev, I would like to call on you for a short address before we slip into the panel.
Thank you, Rika. First of all, you gave the wrong person the credit, for whatever has happened as far as sports development in the state goes. The credit should always go to the Honorable Chief Minister because it's his vision of sports for youth and youth for future that has been a guiding force in Odisha as far as sports development is concerned. It's a pleasure to be with you all today on the occasion of National Sports Day, which also happens to be the birthday of the legend Major Dhyan Chand. Before I say anything, I must congratulate all the eminent athletes and coaches who've been conferred the annual sports award this year. You make all of us very, very proud of you. It's an absolute delight to be in the company of legends like Abhinav, Gopi, Dilip and all. Thank you all for taking out time for joining us on this special occasion. Without further ado, let me give you a brief overview of Odisha's positioning in India's sports landscape. Odisha set a clear intent on becoming a global destination for sports, after which we successfully hosted mega events like the FIH 2014 Men's Trophy and Asian Athletics Championship 2017. The Hockey World Cup in 2018 was organized on a spectacular scale, and it gave us an incredible opportunity to showcase Odisha as a brand with a unique sporting environment. Today, we've become one of the top choices for any international sporting event and also a preferred partner for national sports federations. From football, hockey, rugby to athletics, the state has already hosted several major international sports events. Recently, we also hosted the first Halo India University Games jointly with KIIT University. Our endeavor is to see the growth of the entire sports ecosystem, and it is not just limited to hosting big ticket events. We are also very focused on strengthening the entire ecosystem, starting at the grassroots, moving upwards. We are organizing and restructuring the sports hostel system in the state to make them more dynamic and in sync with the present day requirements. A primary area of our focus is to make the high performance centers functional in their permanent facilities. This is a very unique model which we adopted with corporates, sporting legends, and the government coming together on the same platform, wherein the government acts as a facilitator. Part of the funding comes from the corporates, and a sporting legend or a company runs the center, the high performance center. And this model seems to be getting very successful. We already have many high performance centers which have started functioning, including Abhinav Bindra Targeting Performance Center, which was set up by Abhinav Bindra at Bhubaneswar. It's apparently one of the finest sports rehabilitation and sports science center in the country. The Badminton High Performance Center, which Gopi is leading, has started work. We're looking forward to the building getting completed in about 10 months, but we hope to start the high performance center sometime in the month of April, May next year, which will coincide with the academic session also. It's a privilege for us to be a part of the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup next year in February. Our preparations are on track. The main pitch at Kalinga Stadium is ready, and we are creating 3 new FIFA standard pitches in the city along with ancillary infrastructure, with the idea of giving each of the teams the best infrastructure and facilities for the tournament. And we are confident of getting everything ready by the end of September, which is next month. I firmly believe that India is at the cusp of a sporting revolution, and owing to the vision that has been set in place many years ago, we are ideally placed to lead the charge and gain momentum towards achieving our common goal. To conclude, we are proud to be a part of the sports machinery of the state of Odisha, and we strive to achieve greater heights of sporting excellence in our state through bringing in even more world-class sports events, developing athletes, capable of winning international accolades and looking at an inclusive model of growth of sports in India. I thank Vicky for organizing this webinar and I look forward to an engaging and fruitful discussion. Thank you so much, Rika.
And perhaps the state of Odisha is spearheading it, and to understand what is the nature of the revolution and where we are heading to. We also have Shri Tushar Kanti Behera, the Honorable Minister for Sports and Youth Services of Government of Odisha with us. Sir, can you take it away from here?
Thank you, Rikaji. Good afternoon, one and all. Respected Chairperson, respected Secretary General Phiki, respected Sri Vishal Kumar Dev, Commissioner cum Secretary, Department of Sports and Youth Services, Government of Odisha, respected panelist Sri Abhinav Bindraji, Sri Pulela Gopichandji, Sri Dilip Tirkeji, the moderator, and other dignitaries. On this great occasion, my greetings to everyone on the National Sports Day. At the outset, I extend my heartiest congratulations to all the winners of the prestigious National Sports Awards this year and hope the honor will inspire the eminent athletes and coaches who are still active to put their best feet forward in the next Olympics. ODIs are passionate about sports, both as avid fans and as active participants. Over the years, we have produced some excellent sports persons who have made the nation proud. I salute the achievements of all the eminent sportspersons and coaches from our state on this occasion and hope they will continue to inspire the next generation of athletes to come. Odisha, under the leadership of Honorable Chief Minister Sri Naveen Patnaik ji, has aligned itself with the national goal for the development of sports in the country. We have made sports a priority, and over the years, we have focused on the development of sports infrastructure, hosted mega sporting events, and set up high performance centers for different sports disciplines for the nurturing of future champions in collaboration with the leading corporates and sports legends. I am thankful to each one of them for supporting our endeavor. All of you are aware that Odisha has set a high standard for hosting sports events. The FIH Men's Hockey World Cup held in Bhubaneswar in 2018 is widely regarded as the best ever Hockey World Cup, whereas the 2017 Asian Athletics Championship was conducted within a preparation period of 3 months, a story which became popular as a 90-day challenge. I believe that continuous efforts is the key to unlocking our potentials. Looking ahead, we are proud of our association with the forthcoming FIFA Under 17 Women World Cup. Our preparations are on the track, and we are working closely with our stakeholders to roll out the red carpet for the participants next year in Bhubaneswar. I am also pleased to share that preparations are underway for the FIH Men's Hockey World Cup to be held in 2023 in Bhubaneswar and Raurkela as well. In Odisha, we increased representation across sports disciplines from the state in football, hockey, athletics, weightlifting, badminton, swimming, gymnastics, judo, rugby, cycling, kho to name some of the popular sports disciplines. Some of them have made an impression at the Khelo India Games and several national and international tournaments and have a promising future ahead. In conclusion, I would like to say that the journey of Odisha towards becoming one of the finest sporting hub is a work in progress. I am excited for the future of sports in Odisha and seek the support and blessings of all the stakeholders to fulfill this dream. I am also delighted to be a part of this webinar in the company of eminent sportspersons, administrators, industry, and media. I convey my best wishes for its success and look forward to stimulating discussions and ideas. Thank you. Thank you all.
We look forward to having discussing a little more with you, Mr. Bera. Do stay on. It's time for
Yeah,
me to roll out the red carpet for our eminent panelists as well. Olympic gold medal winner Abhinav Bindra. We have super coach Pulela Gopichand. We've also got on the panel hockey great Dilip Tirke. Welcome, gentlemen. But before I start the discussion on the Odisha story and the discussion, which is one question that is key, that is, I think, integral to Odisha story, is why sports? Why sports, they have chosen sports to be the center point of talking about Odisha, and the entire Odisha model is being developed around sport. And to start out that, I would like to have an answer from Mr. Vishal Dev. Sir, would you like to take that question?
You see, sports is a great way of connecting with the youth, and I think there is nothing better than sports to get everybody together on the same platform. I often say that see, sports is perhaps the only thing which unites all of us, because everything else, religion, caste, region, etc., only divide us. So it was, with a desire to connect with the youth in the state that we decided to focus on sports, and many of our sports persons have been doing very well. Whether it's athletics or it's hockey, weightlifting also of late. We've had many sports persons coming out and bringing laurels for the state and the country. So the idea was to see that we have more and more people, uh, coming into sports, bringing more laurels for the state and the country. And another factor is we also realize that sports has, it's got a unique soft part, and it's perhaps one of the best ways of showcasing, what you're good at. So Odisha, there have been many, I won't say myths, but misconceptions about it being a very poor state, an underdeveloped state, and the Odisha of last 20 years has been very different. If you look at industrial investments, we've been among the top three in the country over the last 20 years. If you look at implementation of various government programs, we've again been one of the leaders. In fact, perhaps the best in rural roads, rural housing, and several other schemes. So we thought that this would be a great platform and a great way of showcasing the new Odisha to the whole world, and therefore so much of focus on sports.
Let me bring Mr. Dilip Tirke into the discussion now. Perhaps your motto is sports for youth, youth for future. Do you think, Mr. Tirke, to be able to tap the youth, and particularly in the tribal areas, hockey was the best medium?
रिका जी, डेफिनेटली मैं कहना चाहूँगा, पहली बात तो मैं बताना चाहूँगा, आज नेशनल स्पोर्ट्स डे, इस अवसर में आप लोगों को मुबारक देना चाहूँगा। आज हम हॉकी के लेजेंड मेजर ध्यानचंद जी को याद करते हुए आज हम गर्व फील कर रहे हैं कि आज उनके जन्मदिन में हम स्पोर्ट्स डे मना रहे हैं। डेफिनेटली मैं कहना चाहूँगा, हॉकी सुंदरगढ़ में ट्राइबल बच्चों में एक जुनून है। हॉकी के माध्यम से हम जितने ट्राइबल बच्चे आगे बढ़ना चाह रहे हैं, करियर बनाना चाह रहे हैं, इसमें कोई डाउट नहीं है। अब हमारे मुख्यमंत्री श्री नवीन पटनायक जी, उनके लीडरशिप में, और हमारे स्पोर्ट डिपार्टमेंट के मिनिस्टर जी हैं, श्री विशाल देव जी, कमिश्नर सेक्रेटरी, सब मेहनत कर रहे हैं इस वक्त कि हमारे जो यूथ हैं स्पोर्ट्स के जरिए, स्पेशली हॉकी के जरिए, सुंदर में जितने भी बच्चे हैं कैसे आगे बढ़ें, इसके ऊपर ध्यान दिया जाता है।
Abhinav, you have played sport the world over. You've seen many models and structures of sporting system. Would you say that there is a parallel for Odisha in other part of the world, or maybe another model that Odisha could set as benchmark?
I think what is very unique about Odisha is, just the way the machinery and the whole ecosystem of sport in Odisha is actually functioning. Their nimbleness in decision making and understanding of long-term athlete development and been a great contributing factor in the whole ecosystem of sport. They've been professional, they've been objective and accountable to their processes. Just their nimbleness of decision making and their decisiveness of decision making would probably put most corporate houses to shame. And that is a sort of environment which really fosters high performance. And I think Odisha is right up there with global best practice in terms of leadership, in terms of their administration to set the right systems to produce great athletes. But I think what is absolutely unique about the Odisha model, what Mr. Dev was talking about, is really to use the power of sport to influence people's lives. I think that is the basis and foundation of elite sport. The basis of elite sport is actually using the power of sport to influence people's lives in a positive manner. You know, we want more and more young people. We are a very young country, and Orissa is also a young, you know, the demographic is young, to influence their lives through sport. Not everybody will become an elite athlete, but, you know, everybody is talking about sport. Everybody is playing sport for the sheer joy of playing sport. And that is the real core, and that is the real basis of high performance. High performance is not just about getting 50 people together and expecting them to go out there and winning gold medals. The core lies in actually creating an environment and a culture of sport with the people. And that, I think, is the real motivation behind the whole Odisha model. And that is really to be commended, because that is the right way to go about it. We will increase our medal tally in this country at the Olympic Games or at the world level when we just have more people participating in sport. We have more people watching sport for the sheer joy of playing a sport, or for the sheer joy of just enjoying sport. When we have more people having access to sports facilities, when we have more people going on a weekend to play a certain sport for the sheer joy of it, not for winning medals or anything, but just for playing, that is when, you know, high performance at the elite level will just be a byproduct. And that, I think, is very unique to the Orissa model, just to use the power of sport to showcase their people, to showcase their state. And it is absolutely commendable, because the values that sport can bring to society are innumerable. Of course, Mr. Dev mentioned most of them, but just teaching our youth to be just more sporting in nature, just teaching them how to win, but more importantly, teaching them how to lose, playing by the rules. These are all immense values that the youth of that state is slowly starting to imbibe. And I think that is, sport can play a tremendous role in building the society, which it is already starting to do. So I have nothing but praise for the Odisha model. And I have to say, it is right up there with global best practice.
Interesting. Gopi, let me take this to you. You've been a super coach from India. You have produced the results. Would you say this Odisha model, the foundation for which have already been laid and you've started functioning, will now reduce the time from the sporting rings to the podium? It'll make the process of producing a champion faster.
I think what we see in Odisha, as Abhinav has mentioned, I think the speed at which decisions are made, the clarity of thought, and actually the entire system working in coordination with each other. I think that is phenomenal. To have a vision from the highest person in the state, and also to have a team with the minister, secretary, and the commissioner working together and roping in people to support the dream is something unique for Odisha. I think as a state, and I think for us to progress, pride is very important. And sports brings that important pride for each of those. And as a state and as a leader of the state, I think the Honorable Chief Minister talking about progress and talking about pride puts sports up there. And to be known, because to be known as a financial capital or the IT capital of the country would probably be a long shot. But I think to be called the sporting capital of the country is something which Odisha is already being spoken about. And also in the world, when you go out, because the Asian athletics has actually made an impact, where people talk of Asian athletics in Bhubaneswar as an event like which has never happened before, And the next cities which are there are afraid to hold the same event because they're not able to compete on the same levels. And that is what, for me, gives me so much of pride and confidence in the work which Odisha does. So it's an amazing model. And they've not stopped at one or two, but I think they've been building the dream. And I do believe that it's a great thing. Lots of kids play, and Odisha people, Odisha, the gene of the people is a fast twitch. So some of the fastest girls in the country come from Odisha. So I think that talent to be pushed to sport is something which is really amazing.
Mr. Bera, I think this is one of the greatest compliments that your state would perhaps have, that you have managed to cut the red taping that we probably associate with many state governments, and make every process nimble, as Abhinav and Pulela mentioned. But is your aim to be called the sporting capital of India?
Absolutely. I would credit that compliment to our administrators, especially our Secretary Sri Vishal Devji. And as he said, clearly mentioned, Honorable Chief Minister's visionary statement, sports for youth and youth for future, that has impacted all of us to grow Odisha like that. And now on the verge of second stage, that we should come over to, our other things, or as you say, as you have mentioned, the bureaucratic red tapings, and also we would like to sign in international arena as well.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Dev, now you have 10 high performance centers, and you have picked very specific sports. Now, could you give us the reason why those sporting disciplines were picked above the others? Mr. Dev, are you still there?
Mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay, so I was saying that the decision was primarily based on what our boys and girls are good at. So hockey and athletics doing very well. Weightlifting has come up of late, and we also looked at the sports which are popular. Badminton is very popular. Shooting is becoming more and more popular. Uh, Swimming is there. Football is a game which is gaining immense popularity. So, and we also looked at an analysis of which are the sports where we can get more medals. So we've started with 10, but there are some more in the pipeline. And the approach that we're following is that once these 10 are grounded and become operational, become established, we will also look at the other sports.
Mr. Tirke, to you, well, Odisha is known as a hub for hockey, but these have been unprecedented times, challenging times because of coronavirus. How are you running the show? How are you running the hockey academies? Are you still getting boys to practice? And if at all, what kind of protocols have you put in place?
रियली इस वक्त हमारे लिए काफी डिफिकल्ट टाइम है। कोविड-19 से काफी हम लोग को डिफिकल्ट हो रहा है। अभी हम हमारे जो जितने भी हॉस्टल्स एकेडमीज हैं, अब तक हम स्टार्ट नहीं किए हैं। हम कोचिंग पार्ट को हम शुरुआत अब तक किया नहीं है। हम गवर्नमेंट जब डिसाइड करेंगे तब हम इसको दोबारा स्टार्ट करेंगे। पर यहाँ पे नेवल टाटा हॉकी एकेडमी चल रहा है। ऑलरेडी गवर्नमेंट का जितने भी नियम को मानते हुए प्रैक्टिस कर रहे हैं।
Abhinav, as we were mentioning, these are unprecedented times, and coronavirus has put a pause on Indian sports for 5 months. Athletes have stayed home. How can high performance facilities, help them return to their peak sooner than possibly they would think, and get them in best shape for Tokyo Olympics?
Well, of course, this is an unprecedented situation that not just our athletes are facing, but I think it's being faced all over the world. And I think that's where I think the use of technology has to be leveraged. You don't have athletes training in regular training camps in certain sports like it used to happen, but you still need to perhaps monitor their well-being, monitor what they're up to, and that's where I think technology can really play a really impactful manner. Having these athlete management systems, which really monitor athletes day to day, right from of course all their physical parameters, but right also their recovery, their sleep, and this, that, and the other. So I think it is all about using data and using technology, especially in this period of time, to help you, because these are unprecedented times. Yes, the virus is still very much sport is very much affected. Olympic qualification tournaments across the world remain suspended, and it seems just the way things are, we will just have to find a way to coexist with this whole problem. It's not just going to go away from one day to the other. So I think you have to find adaptability. You have to find a new way to start training again, but slowly but surely, you have to get the athletes back into action. You have to take that little bit of element of risk, but to really get them back, because I think more than the physical aspect, more than their skill aspect, I think what is very, very difficult, just like how it is for the rest of the larger community, is the mental aspect of it. Athletes have busy bodies, and they've been sitting at home for 5 months, which is extremely challenging, not just physically, but I think it is extremely challenging for them mentally. So I think they have to remain mentally fresh in a way. And I think we have to make sure that we create a psychologically safe environment for them, because I think that is, again, the core of performance. That is the core of high performance. And we really have to look into the well-being. I think the human well-being of the athlete has to be put at the heart and center of high performance. And I think this whole pandemic is a great reminder for all of us to do exactly that, because I think in normal circumstances, what I think the whole ecosystem of sport world over is a little bit guilty, is not a little bit, but pretty guilty about, is that we just focus on the performance aspect of the athlete. We just want the athlete to perform well, but the athlete is also a human being, and until and unless we don't really focus on the human well-being of that person, performance may not be optimum. So it is this whole challenge that the world is facing is a great reminder that really we need to find ways to put the human well-being of the athlete at the center and heart of performance.
Right, humanized sports. That's what perhaps you're talking about. Gopi, would you like to pick up from where Abhinav left off? Because you are one of those who's managing things hands-on while the pandemic is raging. You've opened up the Pullela Gopichand Academy. How are you trying to manage this situation? Have you moved a part of the coaching online? What you're doing really?
International sport is still okay to start off with, because there are a lot of factors which can be taken care of because it's a much smaller group. Professional leagues could start off as they have done in various sports. But the real impact of the pandemic on domestic sport, the real impact on younger kids, and confidence in sport, I think that's where I think it will be the biggest challenge. And for me, we've been able to start. One of the good things is the use of technology for sports coaching is something which has come on much more quickly because of the pandemic. Otherwise, it probably would have taken 5 to 10 years. But then, thanks to the pandemic, actually, we've been able to take online classes. We've been able to monitor more people. We've been able to train more coaches and spread more knowledge. So on that front, we have actually done well. But the impact on younger kids, the impact on parents, allowing kids to travel to tournaments by themselves and to have large tournaments together in one space, and the confidence to do it from a child and a parent perspective is something which will take a bit of a time. And that's where my bigger concern is. As far as international sport and athletes are concerned, I think tournaments will be held, um, venues will be sanitized, players will be taken care of, and that's something which will be the first to start. But overall, I think we need to be prepared to make changes and be bold, but also be sensible when to open up in a full scale.
दिलीप, आपको क्या लगता है जो मिडिल रंग एथलीट्स हैं, जो एलीट एथलीट्स नहीं हैं, नेशनल एथलीट्स हैं, उनको कोरोना वायरस से ज्यादा इफेक्ट होगा दैन द एलीट एथलीट्स?
डेफिनेटली, क्योंकि बहुत सारे प्लेयर्स हैं, हमें 5-6 मंथ प्रॉपरली प्रैक्टिस करने का मौका नहीं मिल रहा है उन्हें, उनके परफॉर्मेंस में असर आएगा। क्योंकि कई सारे प्लेयर ऐसे हैं कि कहीं स्पोर्ट्स कोटा में उनको कहीं एम्प्लॉयमेंट करने का मौका मिल रहा है, कहीं जाने का मौका मिल रहा है, तो इस वजह प्रैक्टिस नहीं करने के वजह से कई सारे प्रॉब्लम फेस कर रहे हैं। और भी कई सारे हमारे प्लेयर्स हैं, अब 5-6 मंथ टोटली आप स्किल, फिटनेस, स्टैमिना किसी चीज में आप कर नहीं पा रहे हैं, तो डेफिनेटली ये सब चीजें प्लेयर के ऊपर असर होगा और उनके फ्यूचर पर प्रॉब्लम होगा।
Mr. Dev, we are discussing the coronavirus situation, impact on sports. Now, since you want to make Odisha a sporting destination, create a robust infrastructure, how does an administrator, now come into play to help those careers that are on the brink? Because we see several sportsmen and women in the danger of falling through cracks. That then, how do you build a system so robust that they are kept within the system and they are helped?
Rika, I'm not too sure if I got your question right, but whatever I understood, let me answer. So, you see, one is the physical aspects of handling and managing a virus, which is sanitation, social distancing, etc., etc. Apart from that, I think what is more important currently is the mental robustness.
Right.
We've opened the high performance center for hockey and for athletics, and weightlifting we're going to be opening up by 15th of September. So we are trying to see that apart from the usual sports activities, coaching, gymnasium, playing, etc., the athletes also get a homely atmosphere. So things like celebrating birthdays, celebrating festivals together, giving time for maybe watching TV, playing non-career sports. Basically trying to see that the whole group of athletes which is housed there functions and lives together as an extended family. And also arranging for speakers to come and motivate them, getting motivation speakers, etc. That's what we are doing as of now. Yes.
Mr. Samanta, sorry, Mr. Behra, let me bring you in here. Well, eventually when the pandemic ends and, we have sports resuming, you will host the Under 17 FIFA Women's World Cup. Tell us about the infrastructure that, you've created in Odisha, and how do you plan to support the athletes?
Because before the pandemic, the exact schedule was in November 2019 for Under 17 Women FIFA World Cup. But since the pandemic is going on, it is being rescheduled to February 2021. So the infrastructure, the existing fields and other newer fields, they are almost done, and it will be finished by September last. So we are absolutely prepared for the mega event. But the thing is, since nobody knows when the pandemic will be over, so it is still uncertain. But I hope the pandemic will be over very soon, and people will be getting the opportunity to view these things, the mega event in Odisha as well.
Mr. Dev, would you like to talk to us about the legacy program once the World Cup is over? What would the legacy program really look like?
The idea behind the legacy program was to, give a fillip to women's football in the state. We've had some outstanding women footballers, including two captains, Shraddhanjali Samantrai and Sashmita. So what we've done is we have identified about 11 districts where we plan to, create clubs and enroll girls within school or outside school in our programs. We're also tying up with several schools across the state and enrolling them for the legacy program. So apart from some equipments that will be given to these schools and clubs, we're also looking at significantly improving the infrastructure that is available across the districts. Honorable Minister was talking about the infrastructure for the FIFA Under 17 Women's World Cup. So just to elaborate on that also, the pitches in the main stadium are ready, the one that is going to host the event where the main matches will be played. We have 4 practice pitches apart from the main pitch, all of FIFA standards, along with world-class ancillary facilities, and also another synthetic football turf, which is coming up. So all in all, the idea is to provide all the teams with world-class facilities and amenities while they're here in Bhubaneswar. And, we'll be looking forward to a great event, having hosted several events in the past. I'm sure the FIFA Under 17 Women's World Cup is also going to be a hugely successful event. We're also delighted with the fact that we are the only venue with a large number of matches. So apart from hosting one full pool, we'll also be hosting a quarterfinal and a semi-final.
Abhinav, the Minister of Sports has been talking about one state, one sport. Do you see that is possible in Indian context, and do you Odisha becoming a state for hockey or a state for football because they have had talent coming in both the streams?
Well, it is a good idea. However, I think the Odisha model is a little bit different. I think they've expanded to maybe 10 odd sports where I think all these performance centers are put up. And I think each one of these high performance centers are of high quality and delivering good results. And, some of them will continue to come up over the next years. I think very interesting to see also the sport of sport climbing, for example, being encouraged in the state of Odisha. It is a new Olympic sport, and I think we must not remain far behind in encouraging these sports because that is really the future of the Olympic movement. So again, I think Odisha has taken the first step there to identify these new sports which are going to define the whole sporting ecosystem in the years to come, and are awake to that and have created facilities for that. One sport, one state, it could be a model, but I think if you can't deny the rest. If there are several people wanting to get into different sports, you do have to create certain infrastructure for different sports. But it can happen that so a certain sport is doing better in a certain state due to several reasons. But I think it is important to have a cluster of sports in the state. I think even when younger kids start to take up sport, and when we're talking about grassroots sport development, it is so very important for these young children to actually play a large variety of sport. They can't just specialize in a single sport at age 10 or 11, and that is really there's scientific research done which clearly states that to build good champions you have to play a variety of sports. So I think that is also critically important when we're looking at the larger picture.
Mr. Dev, it's very interesting what Abhinav said about developing kids from a very early age and maybe developing their motor skills. I know for certain things like this are done in Australia, South Africa, where they look at it very scientifically at an early stage. At any point of time, would you tie up with either Australian Institute of Sports or South African Institute of Sports to get the best of knowledge and practices from there?
Rika, we've had one-off tie-ups. For example, during the Hockey World Cup, we got the state of NSW, New South Wales, from Australia to come and play matches with the team, the state hockey team. And so these one-off tie-ups have been there, but at an institutional level, we still haven't really given it a thought. But of course, if it's about best practices, we'll be open to tie-ups and looking at what they're doing. Sure.
Because of the success that you've had with 2018 Hockey World Cup, you're going to also host the 2023 edition of the World Cup. What is it that we see in 2023 that was not there in 2018 in terms of the way you organized it?
So to start off, it's going to be held at two locations this time, not just Bhubaneswar, but we'll also be adding Rourkela. Now, Rourkela is very special and very unique because that's the most important town in Sundargarh district, the district from where all the hockey stars have come. We've got Dilip Tirki with us today, but other players like Lazarus Barla, Ignesh Tirki, Prabodh Tirki, Birinder Lakra, they all come from Sundargarh. And we've got two academies functioning, one in Rourkela, one in the Sundargarh district headquarters. So, I think the excitement that people will get to see will be in two cities, and we're also developing the infrastructure in Sundargarh district in a big way. It will perhaps be the only district in the entire country, where every block is going to be having a synthetic hockey turf. So that's there for starters. Yes, and we plan to start grassroots training and coaching program in association with Hockey India across these 17 turfs that we are setting up. Our own high performance center at Bhubaneswar, which is a collaboration with the Naval Tata Hockey Academy, would also be looking after some of these centers, and the remaining would be looked after by Hockey India.
दिलीप जी, लड़कों के लिए हमें पता है कि उड़ीसा से कई सारे लड़के आए हैं, नेशनल टीम में खेले हैं. अब हमें लड़कियों के बारे में बताइए, और कहां से हॉकी की लड़कियां उड़ीसा से आ रही है?
जी, कई सालों से हम अब देख रहे हैं. पहले तो हम जब कंट्री के लिए खेलने का मौका मिलता तो उसमें उड़ीसा से 5-6 प्लेयर्स इकट्ठे खेल रहे थे, लेकिन अब चेंज हो गया. अब लड़कियों का दौर आ गया. अभी मेरे के कई सालों से लास्ट ओलंपिक में हमारे उड़ीसा से 6 लड़कियां ओलंपिक में पार्टिसिपेट किए थे. उसमें से 4 हॉकी के, 2 एथलीट के. लड़के खेल नहीं पाए थे. वीरेंद्र लकड़ा का बेटर परफॉर्मेंस था, और पर्चेट उनका नी इंजरी की वजह से वो जा नहीं पाए थे. लेकिन अभी दौर चेंज हो रहा है. जो लड़कियां इस वक्त हमारे सुंदर में काफी अच्छा परफॉर्मेंस कर रहे हैं, और हमारे गवर्नमेंट में भी काफी डीप हो कि हमारे मेंस वुमेन्स दोनों को उनका फ्यूचर किस तरह और डेवलप होगा, और कैसे उनका परफॉर्मेंस आगे बढ़ पाएगा, कंट्री का बेटर कर पाएंगे, उसके पर हम ध्यान दे रहे हैं. और डेफिनेटली जिस तरीके से जैसे साल ट्रिप किए कि ग्रास रूट हॉकी के अब हम ध्यान दे रहे हैं. जैसे आप जानते हैं कि जितने भी महान खिलाड़ी, हम बात करेंगे ध्यानचंद जी, बलबीर सिंह या अजित पाल सिंह, सब कोई ग्रास रूट हॉकी से आए हुए हैं, छोटा टाउन से आए हैं, रूरल विलेज से आए हुए हैं. सो अब उड़ीसा गवर्नमेंट डिसाइड कर रहे हैं, हम फोकस कर रहे हैं सुंदरगढ़ उड़ीसा के ग्रास रूट हॉकी. मैक्सिमम बच्चे किस तरीके से इन्वॉल्व हैं, और कोचिंग सिस्टम को हम बेटर करें. और डेफिनेटली हमें उम्मीद है कि फ्यूचर में हमारे सुंदरगढ़ से हमारे जो किड्स हैं सामने उभर के आएंगे.
Gopi, you have played a great role in women empowerment in India, the way you have led the group of girls to, excel in the sport of badminton. What I really need to ask you is, in Odisha, are you looking for the next generation of Sainas and Sindhus? Are you doing a talent hunt there before you start on the academy? And who are these kids who are going to be at your academy? Are they going to be the ones only from Odisha or other parts of the country as well?
In fact, Rituparna Panda, who's been a participant at the Asian Games in 2018, was the first players from Odisha whom we've been able to train to get to the Asian Games. But I do believe in general that there's a huge talent pool available in Odisha. It's important that the basic facilities to start playing the sport has to be given, especially a sport like badminton, which needs early initiation and a good beginning. I think the important thing would be to start day scholar programs and a lot of other grassroots level programs which are being spoken about by the government to ensure that there's talent not only in and around Bhubaneswar but also other districts so that the pool of talent can come through from those centers to the high performance center. So we'll be focusing a lot on players who are organically grown and who will. So it will be a time-taking process, but in the short term, we will have players from other states as well coming in to ensure that the benefit of sparring and playing with other players also helps. And
So
also to
are
mention,
you
which are
conducting? Yeah. Please go on.
yeah. So we will be conducting talent search early before we even have the building ready. We will be starting it off. And as Mr. Vishal Dev has said, we'll be doing this in April, May, in a kind of beginning of the academic year. And also to mention that the PE teachers in the state have been going through trainings of PL and physical literacy, and that's something which is actually Odisha as a state has actually been the first to start off with in such large levels. So I do believe the earlier question of yours, where different sports and development, I think that's an aspect which will help uh, basic sporting ability among young kids across a vast majority of kids in Odisha, which will help all high performance sport.
Training the trainers, you mean?
It is training the PE teachers who will in turn train the students.
Okay. Kopi, I just wanted to understand, you're talking about conducting talent hunt. Will they be conducted in schools or colleges? At what level are you looking at picking these kids from?
I think there'll be two levels. I think the first would be to see what international standards are and how your progression could be. If there's 17-year-olds whom we find are good, we will pick a lot more. But if there is not so much of that level at 17, we'll go down to 15. If there's not so much level at 15, we'll go down to 13. And that's how the process would be. And it will be majorly uh, through trials and tournaments in association with the government and the federation.
So let me ask you, how many kids are you really looking at putting into your academy? Is there a volume you have decided on, getting into the first rung and then second and then third and then finally you get into the academy?
We're looking at 40 kids to start off with, and as time goes, we will increase. But the first batch would be about 40 who will be residential, and there would be about another 100 who will be on a day boarding kind of a program.
Brilliant. Mr. Dev, are there any of the other centers who've already started talent hunt and they are already looking at putting X number of kids into their academies? Mr. Dev, can you hear me?
अच्छा ମୁଁ କହୁଥିଲି ଠିକ କହୁଥିଲି Yes, sir.
Mr. Dev, could you hear me? I think Mr. Dev may have been disconnected.
No,
I think
I'm
he's
there,
back.
Rika.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
Tell me. No, please tell me. What was the
So what I really ask you is, are there academies that have already started the talent hunt process and they have picked X number of kids to be put into their academies?
Yes, so in the Hockey High Performance Center, we already have 30 girls who joined us.
Mm-hmm.
In the Athletics High Performance Center, which is run in collaboration with RFIS, Lions
Right.
Foundation Youth Sports, we've got about 32 kids. For hockey, we had a batch of boys. 30 boys would be joining us very shortly in about a month's time. In weightlifting, we've got 25, uh, you know, girls who are training with us, and of course, the other ones will be starting very shortly.
And with weightlifting, you have a very unique association with Anil Kumble, because when I'd heard about the weightlifting academy, I thought it was another athlete, but then it was a pleasant surprise to know that it was Tenvik and Anil Kumble. Would you like to talk about that?
That's right. So you see, the idea was that we there are three main ingredients for elite coaching and training. Apart from the you need land, you need infrastructure, and you need good trainers and the entire team of physiotherapists, dietitians, nutritionists, etc. We were very clear that the government should not really get into such training and coaching. So while we can give the land, we can put up the infrastructure. Uh, in certain cases, jointly with a private partner. The running of the program and the operations of the center have to be managed professionally. And government has its own limitations. We're not as flexible as we would like to be, because there are guidelines with regard to how to utilize public fund, guidelines like tender, etc. So we therefore thought that we'll get the best possible, coaches, preferably. If not, then organizations. And for weightlifting, I think Tenway came forward, which was a pleasant surprise for us also.
And I have to really ask you, why did you decide to leave out cricket?
Well, cricket doesn't really need any promotion in our country, does it? No, but
Okay, do you, yeah, yes, sir, please go on.
on a serious note, I mean, cricket has got n number of promoters. We would have liked to focus more on, games which are played at Olympics. So, and
Right.
produce sports persons for international competitions and tournaments.
Right. The focus clearly is on the on high performance and in Olympic Games. Mr. Behra, before I wrap up, I really have to ask you, how is all of this, the Odisha becoming a sports hub, a sporting destination, is being tied into how it is also being promoted as a tourism destination, your culture, food, and all else?
You have to unmute yourself. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir,
Please
you
go
are.
on.
I'd like to say that Bhubaneswar is also known as the temple city of India, and Odisha is known as its architectural heritage, and also its heritage is very old, and many people travel to Odisha for temples, beaches, and other beautiful panoramic view of all these tourism destinations. And also sports and tourism are interrelated. For sports, people coming to Odisha, that is also a part of national integration and discipline. And also, you can see the uh, um, coastal beaches in Odisha, which are very beautiful. And I must say, people coming to Odisha for sports, as well as they should explore the tourist destinations.
Right. I think we have gone past the time that I was given to discuss about Odisha's sporting dream, and I must thank my esteemed panelists. You talk about excellence, and what to me really came across is how you manage sport with a high level of empathy. And we all need to do that in order to take Indian sports forward. With that, I would like to toss over to Sanjog Gupta, the chair of FICCI Sports Committee and the sports product head at Star India. Sanjog, all yours.
Thank you so much, Rika. I apologize for logging in a little late. There is a fair bit going on in the UAE, as some of you may have read in news items this morning, which took a little bit of time and attention. But this was a really fascinating discussion. It was so good to hear from Abhinav, Gopi, Dilip on this interesting model that has emerged, and credit to Vishal and to the Odisha government for really adopting sport in a way that perhaps no state before this has done. And credit to them for innovating on this model of sporting governance and sports development, where they're partnering with former athletes to really create a groundswell for sport. And I think as as stakeholders in sport, it gives us a lot more confidence in where the sports ecosystem is headed when we hear the likes of Abhinav, Gopi, and Dilip talk so positively about the work that's happening to identify talent, to create these talent funnels and talent pipelines, and to explore new models of sporting development. And again, credit to them for going beyond what their remit would be as former athletes, to also truly be custodians of sport in this country. And we can only look at them with admiration for the work that they have done in the past, but also the work that they continue to do. And to you, Vishal, and the rest of the Odisha government, I hope more state governments treat this as a case study and as a benchmark to also adopt models of sporting governance and development. I think someone spoke of the soft power of sport, and the fact that state governments and also administrations need to realize how much soft power exists in sport, not just in terms of being beacons of hope and societal change, but also as being great endorsements for the state itself and progress happening in the state. So it was a fascinating discussion. I would just like to take this opportunity to thank everyone. Rika's already done so on the FICCI Sports Committee's behalf, but I'd like to just add to that, saying it is collectively, when we come together on occasions such as this, the annual sports day, and really chart out and talk about the direction that sport is taking in this country, that we are able to continue building on the narrative that the sports ecosystem has benefited from over the last 3 to 5 years. And more power to you, Abhinav, more power to you, Gopi, more power to you, Dilip, and to progressive governments like the Odisha government, to continue to invest in sport and continue to innovate with models of sporting development and sports governance, which take us forward. So thank you so much for all the work that you've done. Thank you so much today for making time for this event on this occasion of India's annual sports day. More power to all of you to continue doing the work that you're doing. If we can play even a small bit in facilitating both the narrative around the sports ecosystem and getting other state governments and administrations to learn from the case study that Odisha has become, then we will believe we've done our job at the FICCI Sports Committee. So thank you, all of you, for being here.
Thanks, Sanjay.
Rika, back to you, I guess, to conclude the conversation.
Well, thank you to everyone. Well, I think Sanjog has rightly summed up everything that we had to say. And yes, it is on all of us to take Indian sports forward. And the quest for excellence has to remain. But as you gentlemen rightly mentioned, that sports has to be conducted with a lot of empathy, and you are doing so.